Okay. See, during practical, I wanted to give some instruction. During practical, as of now, since I have not yet released the assignment list, maybe today or by end of this week, I'll share the assignment list. But before that, what I want you to do in practical is I have shared this to Python notebook files. Initially, what I want is I want you to explore that. I want you to play with that some settings. So what if you increase the degree to 21, 25? What if I increase the samples? What if I increase the train and test split? So I want you to do experiment with all kinds of settings which you are known. And what I want is I want you to come up with some questions. You can try to understand the program, but if you still don't, like, you have some very very doubt that okay, this line is not something I am not understanding. I checked all internet resources, but still I am not understanding. Better we get explanation from sir in lecture. Yeah, I want that kind of analysis on that notebook files, where you will find out the common set of questions, and in lecture we will discuss that. What exactly it is, why that line we are using, that can we use some different line, what if I use some different function from scikit, what would be the effect of that. So that we will try to look into once you spend time on those notebook files. Okay, so and by the end of this week, I'll be giving you uh, complete assignment list. So why I am refraining right now from giving you that is because there are few still some fundamental concepts which we need to cover, and I wanted to show you hands-on before I expect something from you. So that's why I'm just holding from releasing that assignment list. But the end of this week, or most probably by tomorrow, if I get a time, I'll give that assignment list. Okay, so let us start with today's lecture. We are now to a point almost we are trying to cover all ML concepts. So once this is done, we can move with one hands-on based sessions. See, now before we move ahead, what it is very important to understand this concept called as gradient descent. Okay. Have you heard about this word gradient descent earlier? Now, whatever the table-like structure you see, assume that this is the data set. And let me color this. Okay. So this is your data set. Assume that each one is your record. Record 1, record 2, record 3, record 4, 5. Right? So let us assume these are the records. Let me also number them so that you can identify these record numbers. Remember, we are not looking at yesterday's example, which is k-fold validation. Here we are looking at a data sample which has 14 records. Okay. Assume that these are 14 points. As of now, assume that these are 14 points, and I want to work on a linear regression. So I want to work on linear regression. Let us suppose this is x and y, and I have this small points. This is point number 1, this is point number 2, point number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, some 11 and 12, 13 and 14. Assume that these 14 points are represented here. My task, what is my task? My task is to develop a machine learning model which would learn the regression curve applicable for these points, right? Let us suppose this is the regression curve which I want my machine learning model to learn from these 14 points. Now, initially, if I say that I want to learn a linear equation, a linear regression. So when I say I want to learn a linear regression, when I want to say linear equation, what equation my machine learning has to understand? It has to try to fit, or it has to try to learn a equation of this format: y is equal to mx plus c, right? But in order to be a little bit more convenient with the terminology, what I'll say ax plus b, right? So in this, a is the slope and b is what we call it as, we call it as intercept. So A is slope, B is intercept. So now, if my machine learning model or the machine learning algorithm which I want to write, if it has to learn this equation, see, it has the x values, it has all the x values. So it will have to predict y values. So looking at the y value, see, I have already plotted them, right? So the x and y, they're plotted. So technically the data set is nothing but, what will be the data set to this machine learning model? The data set to this machine learning model would be the set of points x and y. So I think it should be here, the first record should be x1, first record would be say x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 2. And the second record, if you look at the second point, right, let us consider this as second point, this one. If I consider second point, x is equal to 2, y is equal to 1, x is equal to 2, y is equal to 1. So I'm just looking at 0 1 2 3 4, some records. I hope you're getting the idea, like how my data set, the first record is a point x comma y, second record is a point x comma y where x is equal to 2, y is equal to 1. So my machine learning model has to look at to this data points of x and y, and it has to learn what is that a and b, with the help of which this line can be guessed, the regression line, right? Are you getting that? Okay, so now we know what my algorithm has to do. My algorithm has to learn the values for a and b. Okay, have you understood to this point? Let me just check. Have you understood till this point? Okay. So now tell me here, what is input to my program? Input to program is x and y, right? Input to my program will be x and y. What is output? Output will be, output of ML model will be values of a comma b. So my machine learning model has to output values a and b, which it thinks that that line is the one which is found in a form y is equal to ax plus b, and that line will define the set of points in form of linear regression. Okay, so now what are features here? What are features here? Features are x and y. Then what are a and b? So I'll give you three options. What should I call a and b? Just a minute. Okay, let me type that question here so that you can understand. So my question is, if x and y are called as features, here they are called as features because from those values my machine learning model is learning. If x and y are called as features, what a and b should be called? Can you guess? See, I'm not asking tell me right answer. I'm always asking guess the right answer. Guess is always bound to be wrong, but still it is better. So can you guess what we should call A and B? Or do you want options? You will choose one. Okay, I'll share the options. Option 1, label. Option 2, parameters. Option 3, hyperparameters. There is, okay. You want me to remove one answer? Like what we, I think 50-50. If you want me to remove one 50-50, I can remove one option. Okay, I think you already are giving right answers. Yes, what we call A and B are called as parameters. What I call them as A and B are called as parameters. I think Manchika, she is saying it is one. Let me tell you why we do not call it as labels. See, labels are the one which have to be part of data set. Labels are the one which have to be part of data set. But here in this data set, are A and B part of data set? No, we are not providing the values of A and B to the data set. Those are the parameters which have to be learned based on the features. That's why A and B become a parameter here. And why they are not hyperparameters? Because the values of A and B are not constant. They are being learned and they are parameters, and these values change. So see, I may not be correct, but a good rule of thumb is any parameters whose value remains fairly constant across the entire training process, but still that constant value affects the training process, then such values, such parameters become hyperparameters. Okay, so understood? I hope I cleared the doubt, Vanshika's doubt, that why 1 is not a correct answer and why 3 is not a correct answer and why 2 is correct answer. Okay, okay. So now coming back, so what we are learning, we are learning a parameters. Okay, so now let us look at a small process. How does my machine learning algorithm learn this A and B? So what it does, I'll tell you. So it will look at this first data samples and it will try to guess some A and B which comes into this range. Like what I want, y is equal to ax plus c. So it will guess A is equal to 1, B is equal to 0. Only then y is equal to x will be true, right? When it goes to 2 points, it has to fit x and y, so it tries to guess some values for A and B. How does it guess? It is different. We'll see into implementation once. So it tries some guess value of A and B. Then it checks for second point. It guesses, it keeps on adjusting A and B, and it looks at each and every point and it keeps on adjusting A and B, right? So during this process, what, see, if this is the data point during this process, here for example on x-axis, here on x-axis I am plotting the training samples, right? On y-axis I am plotting the error. What I am plotting here? The error my ML algorithm is encountering based on the guess it has made for A and B. So initially when it is training on 1 point, 2 point, 10 point, 20 points and so on, how many points we have? 14 training points, right? Here it would be the 14 training points. So initially when it was looking at just first few samples of training, the error was very high. So the value which my ML model has assumed for A and B, it is not so correct that all points will be accurately satisfying that error value. So as and when this understands the A and more training and samples, the error value might come this way. So it might drop somewhere here 14 and initially then it might increase. So that's how it works. So at what point the error is low here? At this point. This is the point where error is low. So here whatever the machine learning model guesses the value for A and B at this point, these are the most accurate A and B values which my ML model has learned based on this model. So this A and B's are the one which finally defines this regression curve, the final regression curve which I have drawn that. So initially some random values of A and B and it keeps on guessing them, and to a point it just drops here, and even after guessing this, if it still tries to learn more and more on that, it then now goes into overfitting, and whatever the one which has learned A and B, they might change, right? and they might further drop as well. They might increase, they might drop, and it might work very ways. Okay, so that's how my ML. So this graph is during the learning of machine learning model, and during this learning of this, whatever curve which I have plotted here, the curve which I have plotted here, this curve is called as error curve. What I call it as error curve. So initially, when you were at this point on this curve, you have to move across this curve where the curve has the least value. What this curve has? The curve has the least value. So let me tell you, you are at this point. You are at this point, the where I have done the cross mark. You want to reduce the error. So which side you will move? To the will you move to the right side, or will you move to the left side? If you are at this point, you are at this point, right? You want to reduce the error. What side you will move? Right side or left side on this curve? See, you have to move on this curve itself. So which side you will move? Yes, obviously you will move to the right side. So if you want to move to the right side, how do you know that you have to move right side? Because you see that when I move to the right side, the the value of this on this curve is decreasing. So how do you know that the value of curve is decreasing? So here what we do is, at every point on this curve, every curve has a concept called as slope. What slope decides? The slope decides the declination or inclination on the curve. And every linear equation or every quadratic curve or every quadratic curve which you have, they have a point called as slope. So you are at this point, you want to decrease that error. So obviously you want to go, you have to follow the slope in its decreasing order. So if you want to calculate slope is nothing but gradient. Gradient is another word for slope. What I call it as gradient? Gradient is nothing but, gradient means slope. In our algebraic terms, we call them as slope, but technically, pure mathematic terms, we call slope as the gradient. Now, you can use the word. What do you mean by meaning of the word descent? What's the meaning of word descent? Descent means increasing or decreasing. Descent means decreasing. Ascent means increasing. So now here when I'm saying gradient descent, I hope now you are getting the meaning. So gradient descent means you are at a point during training, you have to follow gradient descent so that you're on your error curve, you reach to a lowest point. This lowest point for this 2D curve is called as, what we call them as minima. Minima and maxima. Okay. So we have these two concepts, minima and maxima. Now, so when you are descending it to on the gradient descent here, sir, just give me a minute. There's some background disturbance. I'll just pause for a minute and then I'll resume. Okay. So let me resume back. So I hope you're getting. So this is called as minima point, and we will continue it in next lecture. As of now, just understand what I meant by gradient descent. Are you getting? So now in this gradient descent, I want to know how should I decrease my slope, or when should I decrease through my slope. This is what we call a gradient descent, and under gradient descent we have two types of gradient descent. These are nothing but, let me tell you what are those three types of gradient descent. Okay, what's the first type of gradient descent? The first type of gradient descent is called as batch or I'll say stochastic gradient descent. What I call it is stochastic gradient descent. What is the second term? Is stochastic. Second is batch gradient descent. Okay, let me very quickly explain you what exactly it is. And we have something third type, which is nothing but it's a hybrid of one, two. We call it as mini batch gradient descent. Okay, so let me tell you what is stochastic gradient descent. See, the stochastic gradient descent is nothing but it is related to your data samples. I am at this training sample 1. See, if you make a decision whether to move to the slope towards downwards or upwards, you want to update your values, error values, by looking at each and every sample of record. For example, you looked at this sample, you have adjusted values of A and B. Okay, you are adjusting a value of A and B by looking at sample 1. Then you are looking at sample 2, then you have adjusted the value of A and B. Looking at sample 3, you have adjusted A and B. So if you are deciding to adjust the values of A and B so that your gradient descent can descend to the minimum local minimum point on this curve, this by looking at each and every sample, you are looking at sample, you are making a decision to descend on the gradient, right? When you do that, that type of gradient descent is called as stochastic gradient descent, right? What we call them is stochastic, like line by line, process by process. So stochastic means nothing but continuously one by one. So when you look at each and every sample and you keep on adjusting them, we call it as stochastic gradient descent. Then what is batch gradient descent? In batch gradient descent, what happens is, instead of looking at one sample and adjusting, what you do is you create a batch of small data chunks. Batch 1, you will look at batch 2, look at batch 3, batch 4, and let's call it as batch 5. So you split this data into some concepts. What you do is you split them into batches. So now, instead of adjusting values of intercept A and B every time, but you want to descend that, you won't go through each sample. What you do is you first analyze the entire batch. Only after analyzing entire batch, then you update A and B. So earlier you were updating values of A and B 14 times because I have 14 records. Now in batch gradient descent, you will update A and B after each batch. So how many times it will update? Batch 1, batch 2, batch 3, batch 4, and batch 5. In batch gradient descent, with the 5 updates, maybe you are at first, second, third, fourth, fifth, you will reach here. So that's called as batch gradient descent. And in stochastic gradient descent, you are continuously moving through that. Continuously you are moving through that by looking at each and every sample. So these are called as stochastic gradient descent and batch gradient descent. So some people, they also relate this concept. They relate this concept to a concept called as online training and offline training as well. Okay. Now, can you guess what the mini batch gradient will be? See, to discuss what is mini batch gradient descent, we will understand what is problem if I go with stochastic gradient descent, what is problem if I go with batch gradient descent. Remember, they are not best. They are best for some situations. So we need to understand in what situations the stochastic gradient descent and the batch gradient descents are good. Or can we have some hybrid? Yes, the hybrid is this, but why to go for this? What is that? Learning mini batch gradients will only make sense when you understand the problems associated with stochastic and batch gradient descent. Fine. Have you understood what is stochastic gradient descent and what is batch gradient descent? Have you understood? Can you reply? Okay. Okay, so let me take some questions. Like Vanshika is asking, sir, but how are multiple values taken in batch gradient descent? See, in batch gradient descent, what I'm talking about, you are still analyzing this point. Remember, in stochastic, you are analyzing that. You have assumed A and B, you are assuming some A and B, you have analyzed this, and you find that your assumption is not right, you update the values of that. Second sample, you will guess the new, instead of guessing the new value, based on this point you will find what should be A and B correct for this sample. You will match it with what you have updated. If it still doesn't match or something, you will update that. But in case of batch gradient descent, you have defined A and B initially, you have learned that something, you will have some internal A and B's here, you will have some internal A and B's here, you will have some internal A and B's here. Then you will, maybe you will take some average of this, or some variance or some standard deviation, and you will find what should be the best A and B for these three records, and this you will compare with your initial assumed values. If they match, you will retain them, or if they do not, you will update them. I hope you are getting that. Understood? Okay, so this is called a batch gradient descent. Online means every time you keep on updating by looking at samples. So have others also understood what is this stochastic gradient descent and batch gradient descent? Remember, we will be writing a Python program to do all this. I will only take one example of that, but there you will understand what Harvard ML model, ML algorithm is written. Every time we are using pre-implemented algorithms, right? But there we will not use pre-implemented, but we will write our own linear regression algorithm based on these concepts which you are learning. I hope you understood this concept of stochastic and batch. I will upload this lecture later today in afternoon on YouTube. Go through that. Make it clear that you will understand this. And tomorrow we will look at what are the disadvantages of stochastic gradient, what are the disadvantages of batch gradients, where and how I should use them, and if they do not work, when should I move to the mini batch gradient descent, and what exactly is mini batch gradient descent. And that completes our theoretical points which we need to begin with our hands-on. So thereafter we will jump to hands-on. We will be, our lectures will be mix of hands-on theory and that. Okay, so I think I am done from my side for this session. I think you can mark your attendance, and you should be fine. We will continue tomorrow. And don't forget, in practicals, I want you to try those notebook files in your Google Colab. Those have I have already shared in repository.